It's the biggest decision in the modern AFL era. Will Tasmania go through with this stadium and therefore make it official that the Tasmania Devils will be the 19th team in the competition? It's a decision completely out of the AFL's hands, but one that will impact the other 18 teams in so many ways. The reality right now is time is running out, and it's looking like politics is in the way of getting this stadium planned out and ready for Tasmania's second season. In a few months' time, we should all know whether the tick has been given or a big red stop sign has been planted and the Devils become the team that existed simply as a concept. At the time of making this, Tasmanians are set to go to the polls again for another state election. It will be the state's fourth in just 7 years and comes after a no confidence vote against Premier Jeremy Rockliff in a successful 18-17 motion. Now, the stadium was a part of this, but the motion by Labor leader Dean Winter was broadly based upon more economic issues than just the Macquarie Point Stadium. Winter has even made it clear he supports the stadium, despite questions around whether he would drop his support if the Greens and other independents would allow him to form a minority government, with many of them staunchly against the stadium. Now, an election could have been avoided, but a date has now been set. The big problem here is time. The election will be held on the 19th of July, and that further pushes back all the parliamentary processes to decide whether to go through with the stadium. This can therefore lead to fines by the AFL if the state is late in going through with it, which would then lead to more delays and therefore more fines. Construction is already expensive enough, and again, the more time this takes, the more millions it will cost the state. Time is key, and it's running out, and that's why everyone who wants it to go through is getting shaky. The support from the Liberal and Labor leaders are there, but right now, that clearly isn't enough. The state is in a state of limbo. The AFL is not budging on the initial contract. No stadium, no team. This has been reaffirmed by Jack Riewoldt, who spoke on the Saturday debrief and firmly made it clear no alternatives are possible, despite Jay Clark offering possible options. But a lot of us have heard the stadium is a must, but why? Financial and economic reasons are great, but what specifically are those reasons? Especially when Hobart and Launceston have two great stadiums that have capacities just under 20,000. The first is to have a central point and team home, an identifiable place that is the Devils and theirs only. Now, North Melbourne is ending their relationship with Hobart this year, but Hawthorn are staying in Launceston to play at UTAS Stadium until at least 2027. A new stadium, and to go along with it a performance centre, is key to make the Devils feel like their own entire state club. This also makes sponsors and investors far more attracted, and as said by Riewoldt and Alistair Lynch, means the club can stand on its own 2 feet and not continually receive handouts from the AFL. The next is the weather, which relates to player retention. If you watch the Hawthorn and GWS game played earlier this year, you can see how wild the conditions can get. Severe wind and very cold weather don't make the most attractive proposition to star players. You might think that's a bit soft, but it is the reality. Playing 23 home and away season games in the open in cold and windy weather is brutal. That roof makes such a big difference and levels out the playing conditions, removes the nasty elements, and makes the Devils a great team to go and watch in the comfort of a nice and cosy stadium. It's much more attractive to players to go and play under a roof each week rather than try to fight the conditions, which, as we have seen, can be a bit wild. The roof also helps with TV broadcasts and getting primetime slots. It's much easier to broadcast inside than outside, and the same goes for camera work. The aesthetic is also important, and it would no doubt make it more viable for the Devils to get more primetime games. There is a reason games played in Ballarat, Tasmania and Canberra don't feature regularly on Thursday, Friday and Saturday nights. And the final big point is not to do with football. A roof stadium allows so much more economic expansion. Big concerts, shows and festivals can come to the stadium and again are protected from the before mentioned elements. Over time, The money brought in from these events adds up, and it's an important part of the economic viability of spending millions of dollars. These are the reasons why the stadium is a must for the club. It's not only Tasmanians and those involved with the club that are eagerly waiting for this decision. It affects everyone. First is with the list management of the other 18 clubs and future drafts. Clubs would already be planning for that 2027 draft crop, the first one tipped to be affected by Tassie, not only in terms of the selections that year, but the 17-year-olds who Tasmania might have access to the season after. Trading future picks for talent right now might be worth it if the draft is as heavily affected as we believe it will be, but it could turn out to be a mistake if the Devils don't come in and picks slated to be top 5 or so end up staying that way. This will affect this off-season, which is set to have a lot of big names potentially move, and no doubt future picks, which can be traded as far as 2027, will be included, and there's going to be a lot of risk attached to that. Then there is the idea of the 20th team. You would think Tasmania's entrance would set off the chain reaction to get a 20th team relatively soon. We can all live with an odd amount of teams, but not many other major sporting leagues in the world have that. It's crazy to think that if Tassie flops, it means 18 teams will likely stay for a very long time, but if they come in, it might spark interest from states to get in the 20th. We might not just be getting a 19th team here, but possibly a 20th, and it's something the league will no doubt look at if the stadium gets the tick of approval. But time is running out, and maybe a bit of hope. Chris Fagan in a weekly press conference said, "I'm hopeful things can get sorted out. Maybe the AFL has to give a little on the timing of the stadium and just get the team up and going to begin with. It would be a real shame, given all the work that has been done so far, if this doesn't go ahead. Right now, it really isn't worth discussing possible options to play in Hobart or Launceston for a few years. So many have raised that possibility, but it has been immediately shut down from key spokespeople. CEO Brendan Gale, the AFL themselves, and representatives like Jack Riewoldt have all said no to the alternatives and made it clear. It is in the contract that a 23,000 seated roof stadium is a must. Whether people think it's right or wrong is up to them, and either side is fair, but the impact the yes or no decision will have will be significant. Everyone can agree on that. The effect on the entire competition in the near future is real and depending on this decision, and the impact in 3 or 4 years' time will be just as profound. This will be the biggest decision made in modern AFL times, and it just so happens it's out of the AFL's hands and deep in state politics.